NAB 2020 was supposed to be last week, but was cancelled for obvious reasons. Canon, Sony, and Panasonic each held virtual press conferences to discuss their cinema and broadcast products and services. Why are Panasonic and Sony customers so upset? Let's get into it.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
Hi, I'm Simon, and this is The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, please like and subscribe as it really helps my channel grow. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video I place in the description down below, along with the equipment that I use. Since Canon held their virtual press conference back on April the 20th, I've received a lot of angry comments. Not angry at me, but angry at how their companies are delivering. Sony customers are saying that Sony's ignoring them, same with Panasonic customers. Now granted, Sony has been working on the a7S3 for almost 5 years now. They released the a7S2 back in October 2015. And here we are, halfway through 2020, and there's been very little on it. But Sony has told us that they are in development, they are working on it. And according to the rumors that I've received, we are going to be seeing that camera. Well, we're either going to be seeing the a7S3 or the a7 IV within the next couple of months. My money is on the a7S3. After all, it's been out almost 5 years, whereas the a7 IV has been out for only, what, about just over 2 years? But I understand. I understand it's frustrating. Things aren't the greatest right now, and we look forward to these cameras as a sense of, well, they're our hobbies. They're our sense of creativity. Some of us use them for our profession, and we really enjoy, we look forward to the next iteration. But I have received an awful lot of comments, and I believe a lot of these from Sony are from Sony viewers or Sony customers. These are not just from people who are trying to troll, and the same from Panasonic. So why is this? Well, on April the 20th, Canon held their virtual press conference, and the scope of the conference, or the agenda, was really about NAB 2020, and NAB stands for the National Association of Broadcasters. This is not a trade show in any way for the ordinary filmmaker or photographer. But still, this is kind of like the pros. This is where we get to see some truly amazing cameras, focal lengths. You want to have lenses that don't do a lot of breathing? This is where you can find them. You really get to see some top-notch equipment and software. Canon's virtual press conference was to announce and talk about technologies and services that they were going to announce at NAB. And they did. But in the last 5 minutes, or the last tail end of it, they brought up something else, their mirrorless camera, the EOS R5. Now, Canon has been teasing about the R5 ever since January. I believe they were responsible for the leak that showed up on Canon Rumors that I later talked about as well. And since then, on 3 separate occasions, almost 3 weeks apart, Canon has come out with more information on 8K or more information on the codecs or the video. So that kind of set the scene. The following week, Sony had their virtual press conference. Again, they said the same thing. This agenda is aimed at broadcasters, cinema, production type stuff. This is not for the ordinary filmmaker or photographer. It is, we weren't likely to see an alpha camera, but because Canon went ahead and dropped some information, we were kind of expecting, well, you know what, the a7S3, been working on it a long time. Back in August of 2019, Sony was quoted as saying, yes, the a7S3 is in development. Well, duh, it's been in development for the last, what, 4.5, 5 years now. It's been in development for a long time, and it does have a lot of Sony customers wondering, even myself, even potential customers. This camera was really, really looked upon as an award-winning, wonderful, video-centric camera when it came out. And we haven't seen anything since, really. A lot of other cameras have caught up. Even the Sony a7 III has fixed up some of the issues that we had with the Sony a7S3. So I can understand a little bit of disappointment there. But today we had Panasonic's virtual press conference. And I like Canon's and I like Panasonic's. I think they did a really, really good job. It was upbeat, a great use of technology. Panasonic's, I think they just wanted to step it up. It actually felt like they were in a large office setting. It didn't feel, yes, it was using a green screen, but it didn't feel like that. It felt very open. It felt very modern. Canon was a little bit more homey because we could see everybody's working from home. No surprises. Look, we're all working from home. We're trying to be safe. But like Sony, they just talked about cinema and broadcast related technologies. No mention, no nod, nothing, not even an inkling towards what we all are wondering about, the GH6. Now again, the rumors say that we are going to be getting the GH6 around fall. But there was no announcement, nothing. And again, the focus of these virtual trade shows or virtual conferences was on NAB 2020. It wasn't focused on us, ordinary filmmakers and photographers. So why are so many of us concerned? Well, I think part of it is we're stuck in our homes, we're frustrated. We can't even get out very much to shoot what we want to shoot. Earlier this year, I held a spring challenge where I challenged everybody to go out and take pictures and pictures and videos and send them in, and we could highlight spring as it's happening and it's making us happier. It's getting warmer, the flowers are coming out. In my garden, I've got tulips and daffodils coming up. So I'm finally starting to see some color in my backyard, and the trees are starting to bud. But it is late this year. But why is it that we're so demanding? I get it that we're locked in, but we seem to be very demanding all of a sudden. Why do we feel so let down? And I think part of it is my fault, and not me as one particular person, but social media. We get so many updates and leaks on Twitter. We get them on Facebook and, of course, YouTube, which is where my channel is. And I'm always talking about news and rumors as well. This is a very big news cycle. January right up until about May, and especially May. May is a really big month, and I can see that in the number of views I'm getting, in the number of subscribes I'm getting, and what advertisers are willing to pay. The money is up this month. So we're getting a lot of information coming out. But why are companies trying to control this information? Well, corporate espionage. They don't want to let things out. They don't want to let others get the information. They want to control how the information flows. And with social media, it's very hard to control that. Some companies like Sony and Panasonic have tightened up. They've told staff, do not leak this. If you leak, well, we'll take action accordingly. And Panasonic used to leak too, but in the last, 3 or 4 years, both them and Sony have really tightened up. You're not getting a lot out. And a lot of people have said, boy, you seem like you're the Canon news network, because a lot of what I report is Canon, because there's an awful lot of information leaking on Canon, and some of this is controlled leakage. As I told you earlier, the video that I published back at the end of January, I think it was around the 27th or 28th, was, I believe, coming directly from Canon, because everything in that leak has proven to be true. Now, at the time, 8K RAW just seemed a little ridiculous. Well, we know that's now the case. From NAB 2020 Virtual Press Conference on April the 20th, we can see that you get 8K, you get 8K RAW, you get 4K uncropped with IBIS, H.265, and C-Log. So I think Canon's taking a different approach to these two companies. Canon's taking the approach of, well, because Canon used to be very much like this too. We're going to give you the announcements and the products when we choose, and we're going to give you what we feel is best for you. Kind of like that very traditional patriarch, father knows best. Well, the world is very much changing. Canon has changed a little bit too. Canon is viewing it kind of two different ways, and in a way it's kind of like water. You can control it, you can't control it, but you can guide it. And Canon feels that the R5 is an amazing camera. You can see it in how they announce it and they present it. They're very proud of this camera. This is, right now, this is their flagship product. Forget the 1DX Mark III. Yes, I said that. Forget the 1DX Mark III. The R5 is the pinnacle of their technology right now. The 1DX Mark III was a nod to those who still use and still love DSLRs, and I have nothing wrong with DSLRs. I produced a video just a couple of weeks ago talking about mirrorless and DSLRs, and I think DSLRs still do a great job, and I hope we see a 5D Mark V DSLR. But the EOS R, that's where the passion is. Shortly after they announced the 1DX Mark III, boom, they hit with the rumors and they hit with the development announcement for the R5, but unlike the 1DX Mark III, they were very light on detail, because 3 weeks later, they let Canon Australia leak out a little bit more. Yeah, it's not going to be 8K time-lapse. It's going to be 8K video. You're going to get IBIS and autofocus in all 8K modes. So Canon is trying to get in front of this. Sure, they're leaking the information. Sure, they're they're taking control of social media. They're making sure that we are constantly talking about Canon, about the R5. Look at how much free advertising they're getting. Just go and look at all the videos I've produced. Now, I've been around since probably around the 27th of October, shortly after Canon announced, or provided their development announcement for the 1DX Mark III. And in that time, I've produced over 120 videos. That's a lot. I have a daytime job. This is a hobby of mine. And look at how many of those videos, starting around January, talked about the RS, which later became the R5, and ever since. We can't get enough of it. And why? It's exciting. And you can't get enough of it too. Anytime I release a video that has any mention of the R5 in it, it goes through the roof. Some of you say, will you stop it already? We're in a tough time. We're in a recession. Be patient. Don't get too excited. Nuts to that. Get excited. Have fun with it. If you're a Canon user, this is great. You're getting all the news. Look at the Sony and Panasonic fans, and they're not getting all the news. They're not getting stuff leaked out. There's nothing to feed that hunger and that thirst. So as a Canon customer, you're getting that information. I have a Canon, and I'm probably going to get the R5 and the R6, but that doesn't mean I'm a Canon fanboy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You see, I grew up in the 80s when the computer technology, the computer technology was just all over the place. It was every single 6 months. It was innovating and changing, just like you saw with the smartphone technology just a few years ago. It was very exciting. I got a Commodore VIC-20 when I was, I think, 11, for $79, and it had 5K of memory, and with the OS installed, you only had about 3.5K. Then I got a 64, a 128, the Amiga. It was very exciting times. And I feel that we're on the edge of that right now with Canon. The R5 is, look, let's kind of forget the Canon of old right now. I think they've really turned off the cripple hammer here. I really think that this is going to be the best camera they've ever produced in a hybrid, mirrorless, or DSLR. This is going to be their new flagship until they come out with an R1. Yes, it's going to be video. Yes, it's going to be photo. It's going to be 50-50. And the RF system provides really good lenses. So, yeah, things are looking good. And I think that's part of the frustration for Sony and Panasonic users. We got virtual press conferences and there wasn't a single nod. That old way of doing things where we're going to hold on to the information and give it to you when we want to give it to you, instead of just a little bit of a tease. Don't get down. If you're waiting on Panasonic, you're waiting on Sony, don't get down. We expect cameras coming out for the Sony platform within the next 1 to 2 months. We expect it for Panasonic as well. The GH6 is most likely going to happen before fall. We're probably going to get an announcement within the next couple of months there as well. And Sony, there's talk of the A7 IV and there's talk of the A7S III. And if I was a betting man, I'd go with the A7S III just because it's been 5 years. If they don't do that and they come out with the A7 IV, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing camera. If they don't come out with this, then we're going to be probably September, October before there's a chance of seeing the A7S III. And then it's definitely 5 years. So, be patient. Don't get too upset. Don't get too down. I am constantly, every day, as I'm looking for Sony rumors, I'm looking at Panasonic. I'm looking at Panasonic, Sony, Canon, Nikon, everybody. Don't worry. Good things are going to be coming to each brand. Nikon, for example, we're going to see some updates there. We're going to see probably the equivalent to or in the same level as the R5 and the A9. We're going to see a really solid camera in the the Z8. And we're going to see a follow-up or a camera that's going to be a little bit better than it's kind of a replacement for the Z6 or Z7. I've heard that it might be the Z5. Really not too sure at this point because we're not getting a lot out of Nikon. Again, Panasonic, it's that GH6. Sony, there's a lot coming with Sony. We're going to see at least one alpha dropped in the next couple of months, A7S3. So good things are coming to each brand. Don't get too down. Don't get too upset. Like I said, I do my best to cover each brand as there is information. The only reason I'm covering Sony is Canon more than the rest. There's just so much more information coming out daily. Look at Canon Rumors. A lot of what I cover is also on Canon Rumors. And you'll see it's Almost every day there's at least one new piece of information being dropped. That's a lot. On Sony, not so much. On Panasonic, not so much. But that's all I wanted to talk about today. Again, drop me your comments. I do appreciate your comments. I do appreciate your discussions. And I do read all the comments and I respond to as many of you as I can. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.